the recording. We're just gonna let everybody in and we're gonna get started.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, she said give people about 5 minutes to get in the room.
All righty.
Hopefully that'll give them some time to connect to Facebook.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're letting everyone in from the waiting room now. We are letting everybody in from the waiting room. Thank you for joining us for this conference number 2, discussing how to navigate COVID-19 and academic plus mental health needs. So thank you all for joining us and hearing what we have to say in terms of how we can support our community. I'm your host tonight, Jonathan Piper II. Follow me on Instagram at j.lifeagent510. We're just letting people enter the chat. Feel free to send the link to any friends, family members, teachers, colleagues, or students who you feel like can benefit from the information around how to build resilience in our community at times of need such as this. I'm going to allow more people to join us. We're now at 57. I'm going to play some music and give about another minute or so for some people to join. Oh, y'all can't hear me? Can y'all hear the music? No? Oh. So y'all are just listening to me mouth the words because y'all can't hear the music. How about now? No? Alrighty, well, no music right now. We're just gonna get started. I'm so sorry for the technical difficulty around the music. Again, my name is Jonathan Piper II, hosting for this evening. Thank you for coming to this conference. I want to let everyone know this conference is youth-led. It was planned by the youth, and it's very important that we listen to the youth voices at a time like this because our lives are being affected by this pandemic and our education is definitely in jeopardy. And so with the youth, when we talk about what we need in order to feel supported, what we need our teachers to do so that we can stay on top of it, we're really coming from a place where it's going to impact us right now and our future, and also the future of the rest of the upcoming generations. So that's why the youth said that this is super important and that we need to be the ones in front of whatever is happening because our solutions will be impacting our lives. I want to thank the city of Oakland for the funding that they have provided us so that we can make sure that the youth are paid and that we can have these conferences going on. I definitely want to thank the partnership with the Oakland Frontline Healers, and we'll actually explain what Oakland Frontline Healers is and what they do later on. We do have an active chat, so if you have any comments or questions, please be respectful. And we will be also posting things in the chat for you to do. We have some surveys, we have some things that we need y'all to know. So we will be utilizing the chat, but just be mindful of what you're putting in there and who can see what's being said. I would like to ground us because some of us have had long days, some of us might have some Zoom fatigue. I don't know what your story is. A lot of us have had complicated weeks, complicated months with all of this happening. So we're gonna come into this space rejuvenated and with a new energy. I have a singing bowl right here. And what I'm gonna do is hit this bowl. There will be a ringing sound. And what I want you to do is just close your eyes, take a deep breath as you hear the sound. And when the sound stops, open your eyes and we'll continue. So I hope you can all hear this. And as the sound fades, take a deep breath out. So I hope that helped with decompressing or taking away any of the anxiety or anxiousness you might have been feeling. So yes, we're going to get started. Thank you all for coming. I encourage you all just to hold on to hope. You know, it's been a difficult time for us all, but with resilience and with community, we can get through it. I will now pass the mic to my colleague who will go over our agenda for the day. So please unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leanna Parrish. Thank you, Jonathan, for the relaxing calm down. It was amazing. I feel good and relaxed. I just took a nice deep breath. I want to welcome you all once again to our second youth-led conference. I'm excited that you all are here, and we want to collect your thoughts and your needs that are related to COVID. We want your ideas, and we truly want to know how you guys are feeling. So we ask that you please take this survey that is located in the chat. You're going to get about 3 minutes to take it, and there will be music playing while you fill it out. And we are having a raffle at the end of the conference, and we will give away 3 $30 gift cards to 3 people who fill out the survey. And so there will be a post-conference shorter survey at the end, and we will randomly pull the email of the names of the 3 winners at the end of the conference. So take that survey in the chat. You'll have about 3 minutes, and yeah, enjoy some music if we can get it on.
You.
Yeah, this album is dedicated to all the teachers that told me I never amount to nothing. To all the people that lived above the buildings that I was hustling from that called the police on me when I was just trying to make some money to feed my daughter. And all the struggle, you know what I'm saying? It's all good, baby. It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine, Salt and Pepper and Heavy D up in the limousine, hanging pictures on my wall. Every Saturday, rap attack Mr. Magic Marley Marl. I let my tape rock till my tape pop, snipping on private stock way back when I had the red and black lumberjack with the hat to match. Remember rapping Duke? The hard, you never thought that hip-hop would take it this far. Now I'm in the limelight cause I rhyme tight. Time to get paid, blow up like the world trade. Born sinner, the opposite of a winner. Remember when I used to eat sardines for dinner? Peace to Ron G, Brucey B, Kid Capri, Funk Master Flex, Love Bug, Star Ski. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. Call a crib, same number, same hood. It's all good. And if you don't know, now you know. I made the change from a common thief to up close and personal with Robin Leach. And I'm far from cheap with my peeps all day. Spread love, it's the Brooklyn way. The Moet and Alizé keep me pissy. Girls used to diss me, now they write letters cause they miss me. I never thought it could happen, this rapping stuff. I was too used to packing gats and stuff. Now honeys play me close like butter play toast. From the Mississippi down to the East Coast. Condos in Queens, and for week. Living life without fear, putting 5 carats in my baby girl ear. Lunches, brunches, interviews by the pool. Considered a fool cause I dropped out of high school. Stereotypes of a black male misunderstood, and it's still all good. And if you don't know, now you know. You know very well who you are. Don't let them hold you down. Reach for the stars. You have a goal, wake up in the name, 'cause you're the only one. I'll give you good and Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. When I was dead broke, man, I couldn't picture.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed the music. I know I did. And don't forget to keep taking the survey as I talk. So today you guys will see some videos and presentations by Oakland High School and college students covering a variety of topics, youth-led. I'm gonna keep repeating it over and over. But first, I wanna tell you guys a little bit about the Oakland Frontline Healers. So cue the slideshow, please. So I want to first thank the City of Oakland and the Department of Violence Prevention for funding our conference. As a part of the CARES Act, this conference is presented by Vision Quilt in partnering with the Urban Strategies Council. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Oakland Frontline Healers, who are the people that are helping organize this conference. The Oakland Frontline Healers are a coalition of 25 nonprofit formed by Errol Daryl Allums, Justin Lee, and Dr. Watson in March of 2020 when the COVID pandemic began greatly affecting the African American community in Oakland. Next slide, please. They created 30,000 door hangers to appeal to the people of all ages to be safe. As you can see, these amazing door hangers have one of the big phrases, respect and protect. Because if you respect yourself and others, you will protect yourself and others. They also include their number at the bottom where you can get many resources like food and, even free COVID tests. Next slide, please. The Oakland Frontline Healers created a poster for the East and West Oakland people. Once again, this is an amazing one that shows a minority on the front, someone that looks like them. They were inside small businesses. So when you're walking through a small business, you're seeing someone that looks like you with a mask on, which once again stresses the importance of COVID safety. Next slide, please. Carrie Lynn created this poster to remind us of safety practices. This conference is all about COVID safety. And so some practices, are washing your hands, making sure you're staying around your social bubble, constantly wearing your mask to protect yourself and others. And if you feel like you have symptoms, then going to the doctors. That's part of being a citizen and being part of a community. Next slide, please. And so today, this is what our dynamic youth team is going to share with you, these 4 points right here. The first one is challenges students have had with online learning, isolation, mental health needs due to COVID, and ways that we are coping and practicing self-care. Secondly, we're going to feature 2 programs that build emotional well-being, the Attitudinal Healing Connection and Lighthouse Community Public School. Thirdly, we're going to speak of State of Oakland Youth, which is about academic and mental health recommendations for change. And fourthly, you're going to hear a response from 3 amazing adult leaders, Mr. Michael Scott, principal of Castlemont High School, Lisa Carlisle, director of Young Adult System of Care, and Mr. Mateen Abdel Kawi, OUSD High School Network Superintendent. Next slide, please. So speaking of the amazing art that I showed you, I want to show you art of 3 dynamic youth design team members and what they created. I really think you guys are going to like it. So this first artwork was drawn by Lizeth Serrano, a sophomore at Lighthouse Community Charter School. Due to the pandemic, we have had to stare at screens all day, she says, and that can be overwhelming. At our age, we should be socializing instead of being at home all day. This is amazing. Lizette did some amazing work. Next slide, please. This illustration is by Nakta, a freshman from Oakland High. This captures the essence about what this conference is all about. As you can see, this girl is staring at a screen. All these words, change, family, all these things that we are all struggling with as youth. And it's really relatable and the artwork is amazing. You see the overlapping, the different textures, and the different colors. Next slide, please. This is a final infographic that was done by Stephanie Lai, and this helps us to define mental health and shows us ways that we can take care of ourselves. So I want to first explain a little bit about what mental health is defined as. So mental health are someone's conditions, such as emotional, psychological, and it can, depending on how your mental health is, it can depend on how you interact with people and how you make decisions. Next slide, please. So how has COVID-19 affected a lot of people's mental health? Well, we're inside all day. We're not getting the same social interaction that we would usually have. People may be stressed about the uncertainty about what's going on. And we're living in unprecedented times. And so they don't know what's going to happen. So the anxiety and the stress, along with being constantly in front of screens, is all affecting people's mental health. And I know personally it has affected mine. Next slide, please. And so Stephanie, she really helps us by outlining some ways that we can take care of ourselves during this hard time when our mental health is being affected. One way is eating healthy. Another way is exercising and going out, meeting in small groups with your friends, spending time with family, picking up a new hobby. I like to draw, so drawing and getting a lot of rest also really helps. Next slide, please. And so in conclusion, no matter how old or young you are, we all have to take care of our mental health because it is very important. And so I want to thank you all for hearing the slides. And I know we're going to hear some amazing student voices tonight. And so I want to pass it off to Chloe Armstead.
Hi, I'm Chloe Armstead. Thank you, Leanna. I'm a junior at Oakland Technical High School and the third moderator for this conference today. So today we will be showing you guys an animation video made by Diana Garcia and Jay Prado. This animation, in my opinion, is really great. It's showing exactly what we're going through during COVID and also recorded by some of the youth who will be speaking in this conference today.
What have been your greatest challenges during COVID-19?
My greatest challenges during COVID-19 has been not being able to participate in internships and volunteer opportunities, as well as seeing my friends, not being able to go to school, socializing and making friends as I transition to a new environment.
Something that has been my greatest challenge during COVID-19 was stress, anxiety, and being unable to go on with my normal life, and much more.
During COVID-19, one of my greatest challenges has been trying to keep up with work and dealing with procrastination.
So what has helped you manage stress during the COVID restrictions?
Something that has helped me manage stress during COVID restrictions is meditating, working out, and writing some music.
Something that helped me manage stress during quarantine would be texting my friends. Finding new hobbies and long walks in nature helps too.
What has helped me manage stress during COVID restrictions was that I worked out. Yoga, meditation, me time, finding joy in hobbies like painting, etc., reading, looking at nature, self-care, self-love.
Praying has helped me.
Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but I actually really liked that. That was like my second or third time seeing it, and every time it just got better and better. So next, we want to hear from you guys, the audience. So I have two questions that I'll be asking you today, and if you could just drop it in the chat, and someone will read off 5 people at random, and then I'll ask you the other question. So the first question is, what challenges have you experienced during COVID-19? Again, if you could please drop it in the chat and someone will reply to them, that would be great.
So some challenges that are mentioned in the chat are sleep deprivation. I'm going to read some of them out. Isolation, not being able to have a social life, not being able to see my family, missing my sisters, and procrastination.
And our next question is, let me see. What are your coping mechanisms and self-care techniques to deal with COVID and stress? Again, if you could please drop it in the chat and someone will reply to them, that would be great.
Somebody in the chat said sleeping, listening to calm music, walking outside by the water daily, cuddling with their pets, prayer, music, Netflix and Hulu, dancing, yoga, and exercise. Thank you. My personal one, if you've seen my Zoom background, you see Avatar, The Last Airbender. I've been binge watching that series over and over again on Netflix. Alrighty, can we go back to the main screen, please? Perfect. Thank you so much to all of you for being vulnerable and sharing with us some of the challenges you faced. challenges you've faced and some of your coping mechanisms. Now we want to share with you a program that is based on principles that support students' emotional health, the attitudinal healing connection. So here is Nico Cabrera to tell you what he has gained from working with this dynamic nonprofit.
Thank you, Jonathan, for that welcoming intro. Hello, my name is Nico Cabrera, and I am a senior at Oakland Technical High School. I'd like to start by thanking the Oakland Frontline Healers for organizing this series of conferences and giving youth a platform where we can amplify our voices. You can bring up the slides. Thank you. I'm here as a student. I'm here as a student, a youth leader, and a representative of Oakland Attitudinal Healing Connection. AHC is a West Oakland-based nonprofit whose mission is to empower individuals to be self-aware and inspired through art, creativity, education, and making positive choices to break the cycle of violence for themselves and their communities. I joined AHC's Artist STEAM program in the 8th grade to hone my artistic ability. And as I became more immersed in their work, I also developed my skills in collaboration, leadership, team building, and attitudinal healing. Next slide. I want to introduce you all to one of the principles of attitudinal healing. AHC has 12 principles which are intended to serve as a guide for maintaining wellness in our daily lives. Therefore, I've chosen number 8. We can choose and direct ourselves to be peaceful inside, regardless of what is happening outside. I picked this one because I feel it can relate to our time in quarantine and how some of us are finding it increasingly hard to go about our days while locked up in our homes. Principle 8 also describes how I personally feel about life in order to keep inner peace by not letting outside inconveniences affect my mood. Next slide. The principles are only one aspect of my wellness practices. We have collaborated with City Slickers Farm and maintained a plot of land where we learned how to tend to the farm and understand the importance of organic farming and sustainable food preparation. In addition to this, we practice meditation and breathing methods that I to this day use rather often. Next slide. Just as I am an Artist STEAM student, I am also a youth ambassador in the West Oakland Legacy Leadership Project. It is in this community that I learned of the essence of collaboration, leadership, and team building through the few years that I've spent with this organization. Next slide. I've been continuing to work on myself, even through quarantine, and having less physical interaction with AHC. Although I have noticed that in this quarantine, I noticed that this quarantine has been having more of an impact on specific groups of people that we describe as introverts and extroverts, which leads us to the next slide. With introverts, such as myself, I feel we are not as heavily affected by this isolation, being that we do not thrive on external activities and social interactions as much as our counterparts. On a personal note, I noticed this difference when an extroverted friend of mine nearly wanted to cut ties due to my lack of keeping in touch. With this, I did my best to extend my attention to this friend and slowly heal the lack of social interaction that developed between us. This situation taught me to remember to extend my compassion to all those I hold dear while we are in quarantine. Next slide. A Sibling's Wish is a piece I made for myself as a superhero project in 2019, which was inspired by my deceased older brother, who was one of the fuel and reasons I became an artist. The SAS project was the perfect coping outlet I needed while still handling my feelings when the wound was still fresh, and really helped me break out of my shell. Next slide. This piece I made with AHC after being told to create a piece of someone you admire and idolize. Naturally, I drew my brother. To this day, he's still one of my biggest motivations as an artist. Next slide. Although I'm an introvert, I have been able to make some great friends in AHC. I am showcasing these two pieces from my peers, Clinton and Nirali, and as we've been in WOLP together. We have seen each other grow in artistic skills and maturity. The piece to your left is Clinton's superhero, Afro Samurai. Afro Samurai tells the story of a teenager named Leo who is caught in the crossfire of a gunfight. In the aftermath, Leo goes into a coma for a few weeks. He then wakes up and is devastated by the systemic causes behind his trauma, and that Black and brown people are not given the respect they deserve because of the judgment others make about the violence in their communities. Leo's coma gives him access to a sword that can cut through negative auras and stop violence. He then visits a fortune teller who guides him through this aura illuminated power and supplies him with a superhero suit. Leo now combats crime and successfully uplifts his people and community. And to your right, we have Let Us Have a Home, is a story created by Nirali, one of our younger youth students who I was personally blown away by due to her being a rather quiet and more reserved person. This piece shows the story of Atticus, an orphan who lives in the forest and uses a magical bracelet to connect to an ancient dragon key of the universe. This bracelet builds homes this bracelet builds homes in every environment and is meant to solve homelessness. Her artwork amazed me because although she did not share much about herself while on the program, her piece speaks volumes about her talents, how talented she is, not just as an artist, but also as a person. Next slide. I will close with Attitudinal Healing Principle 11. Since love is eternal, change need not be viewed as fearful. Despite the fear that can accumulate from a virus like COVID and the inevitable changes in our society as a result, we are grounded by love. We are all strong, especially when we work together and use that love within our communities to stay sane and build resilience. Next slide. If you want to provide at-home art opportunities for local students, contact AHC or donate to their art kit campaign. Even though AHC can no longer be a physical presence in teaching our curriculum after school, we are distributing creative activity and disaster preparedness art kits with activity guides and quality materials to Bay Area families. Thank you again to the Oakland Frontline Healers. Have a great evening, and I wish you all good health and happy holidays. Next, I'll pass the mic to our next speaker, Griffin Castellino.
What's up, y'all? Thank you, Nico, before we start, just for being willing to be vulnerable in this space and sharing that, and for sharing those healing principles too. I really needed that in that moment. My name is Griffin Castillo. I was brought on as a, right, thank you, Nathaniel, as a youth presenter to speak my piece and my perspective on what me and my community have been going through right now and really bring to light a lot of the things that we've been going through. And to do this, I use art similar to Nico and many other the young people in this space to speak my mind in ways that sometimes I struggle to in conversations in other ways. So I'll be sharing a piece that I'd written recently for this conference. But before I start, I want to just dedicate this moment and take a breather to say thank you and wish well for all of our families who are grieving the loss of a loved one right now or struggling because of COVID, and to anybody that's struggling right now. I'll share my piece now. It's titled Flowers on the Grave. And I appreciate the opportunity to share. I'm nervous, honestly, because sharing my soul like this is uncomfortable, but thank you. I think my brain has been distorted, all switched up and out of order. I can't tell my up from down. My mind's been lost up in them clouds. I've been in my head for weeks. I ain't seen sun since the age of 3, and I can't help but reminisce. Lord, please don't let me forget this. Like all of the words of my mind, I cannot define. It feels like a trap. I feel like a rat been stuck in my cage, choking on razors and tracking these days. I'm stuck in my ways. Whoa, I'm stuck in my ways. So yeah, somebody help me. I feel like I'm slipping. I'm already tripping. I gotta stop sipping. I'm living again, but I'm losing my friends. I've been losing their friends. Who've been losing their friends, and it happens again. And I feel like I'm slipping again. See, the problem is I can pretend. I don't want to go through this again. I'm still tripping, slipping, mumbling, sipping, gripping, and stumbling. I think I'm going under, cause all I hear is that thunder, that big booming in my chest. Watching my family lay to rest. Hope you never know the rest. I hope you never face this test. That's the way it goes, the way life flows. A flower grows amidst the cold of its own soul. Again, the concrete cracks, and now we're back to where we're from. So feel that thrum of beating drums and know that you are worthy of the throne you seek on which to rest your feet, because we can rest for weeks, and that'll make you weak. So when life gets bleak, find love. And I share these, thank you, thank you. I share this in my words and my music and my soul with you all to remind us that it's hard right now and that it's important to be struggling and that this struggle is life and that we have to be protecting and fighting for our young people because our young people are going through it. You know, we exist as a society to support and to protect and to bring up and inspire and nurture our young people. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So thank you for coming out. I'm honored to be able to share this space with you all. And I'm excited to bring on this next speaker, Lizette Serrano, to talk about their program at Lighthouse Charter School. Thank you all.
And right before Lizette comes on, I want to give a special thank you and shout out to Superintendent Kyla Johnson-Trammell for joining us tonight. I know she's on a limited time frame tonight, and we are a little bit behind schedule due to technical difficulties, but as we catch up, I want to thank everyone for being patient and thank the superintendent for carving out time to hear from us. We will also be recording this and distributing it, so feel free to look for this video at the end on our platforms. We have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, so you can get the full scope of what we talked about. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there and pass the mic back to Lizette.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you so much to Griffin for that beautiful spoken word. And now I'll introduce myself. Hi, everybody. My name is Lisette Serrano, and I am a sophomore at Lighthouse Community Public School. And I will be representing the alliance between Vision Quilt and Lighthouse. Lighthouse is an expeditionary school. That means we study subjects in depth for 3 months. Students lead the expeditions in various ways. After one of our Lighthouse students was killed, the 7th and 8th grade students chose to study gun violence for their 3-month expedition. We studied it in every class, such as humanities, math, theater, creativity lab, and in our advisory groups. Vision Quilt was invited to be a part of this program. Thanks to a national grant from the John Legend Foundation and the National Writing Project, we were able to expand the program to create a teen council where we developed a digital toolkit of our 3-month curriculum for free national dissemination. I was selected to be on the teen council and help develop the arts curriculum. The teachers helped us study such topics as toxic masculinity. We also interviewed young adult survivors of multiple shootings. We were given social and emotional support as we studied the roots of gun violence, bullying, racism, depression, poverty, police brutality, domestic violence, and much more. Our teachers use the castle model to support our social and emotional learning. Whenever any of us were having a hard time or felt uncomfortable, teachers made the time to support us. If we didn't feel comfortable, they gave us time and space to reflect. They would let us talk to them later or talk to a friend. We as students were always there for each other, even if we had never spoken to each other before. We knew we were studying a rough topic and that everyone had been through different experiences. And here's a clip of our teachers and the student.
Powerful changes has been their understanding of masculinity. There was a lot of behavioral changes in our boys after they got to really look at what does society expect of men? What does society expect of little kids that are both boys and girls, and how does that affect all of us, and how does that lead to these violent means? And when we think
about like what kind of people we want to put out into the world and into our community. It isn't enough that they can read and write and do math, right? Like that they actually feel like they can do something.
Before I would be like, okay, this is not my issue. I don't have to worry about this. But now I see that everyone can like include their ideas, their thoughts, like how to fix this, and like, yeah.
Even classmates that would not normally be serious, I saw them put their full heart and mind into their vision quilt panels. My friends and I had a good time presenting what we learned during the 3 months. At the end of the year, we designed and led a hands-on exhibition for the Oakland community. My year, 450 people showed up in one night. Our vision quilt panels were displayed at the exhibition and are now a part of the National Virtual Vision Quilt. Our teen council helped generate ideas for the digital toolkit, which will be available for free for schools nationwide. I am proud to say that Lighthouse High School was distinguished itself over the years as a top Oakland high school. 97% identify as students of color, 90% of graduates are accepted to a 4-year college, 90% will be first-generation college students, 70% of students speak English as a second language, 83% of families are low income, and 4 times the national college graduation rate for low-income students of color. For more information, check out the links in chat. After George Floyd's death, I took it upon myself to make another vision quilt panel, and here it is. Thank you for listening, and now I'll turn it over to Jonathan to present the State of the Youth.
Hello, everybody. It is me again. Thank you, Lizeth, for showing us the amazing work that happens at Lighthouse and for being comfortable with sharing with us your artwork as well. That was amazing, and I'm so proud of you. I want to remind everybody that this is about addressing COVID safety and awareness while building resilience and messaging. So everything that we share is around how to build resilience in our community now, because it's such a different time. You know, and a lot of people have experienced social, emotional hardships. And so it's, you know, now we have to find new ways to come together as a community and teach each other and be accountable for one another. And now I'm going to go into the State of Youth. So if you are familiar with the first conference we had, there we touched on the state of the youth due to COVID safety and awareness and what's happening. And now we will be doing mental health and academic needs. So explaining how COVID and social distancing has affected youth in the way that they learn and how their mental health is. I also want to open it up with a quote by Nelson Mandela, which says, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." So amid the COVID crisis, our beautiful city of Oakland is experiencing more than just one pandemic. So it's not just COVID, but there's some other issues that we'd like to tackle and address in our community. So there is a major inequity when it comes to students who are served properly by the education system. And so when we think about equity in the classroom, there's a difference between equity and equality. Just because you give equal resources, let's say you give a textbook or you give a computer to different demographic of students, they're both coming from different places. So when we talk about equity, it's about who needs a little bit more support in certain areas and how we're gonna give them more support. So a lot of times we're like, well, I taught them equally, you know, they both got the same amount of knowledge, but some people learn differently. And I want us to know that in our community, when it comes to some students, how they learn, there's an inequity because not all of their needs are being met. So there are about 9,608 low-income Black students and 21,286 low-income Latinx students enrolled in Oakland schools at this time. And unfortunately, there is about 30% of OUSD students who are not logging in onto the internet for their schools, right? So everybody is supposed to be doing Zoom learning, we're doing social distancing, and it's an alarming rate that there's 30% of students who are not learning from home. And this could be due to insecure housing. Maybe they're going from place to place and they don't have the time to sit down for their 8 to 1 p.m. Zoom. There is a poverty, they're increasing within our community, meaning there's lack of access to technology. Not everyone has the computer that they need for class. You know, some people have to share the computer with their parent who's also working from home. There is a lot of people, like I said, there's different ways that we learn. Some people don't learn through screens, but they learn from in-person, you know, being in person and actually getting that valued attention. So without that teacher or that person there to, you know, hold their hand or be over their shoulder, they don't feel like they're supported, and now they're not joining class. Of course, there's stressful home environments, and the neighborhoods aren't safe. So instead of learning, instead of actually being on their Zoom, they're worried about, you know, where they're gonna, who's at home, you know, who's going to be watching them at lunchtime. And then of course there's Zoom fatigue. So there's, you know, I was having 5 classes and we'd have 2 hours back to back to back, and I would get exhausted. So I just imagine how the current high schoolers feel when they have about 7 classes. You know, that's how many classes I had in high school. I'm not sure how it is right now, but there is a thing as Zoom fatigue where you get tired of being on technology and looking at the computer, and it causes you not to want to be on anymore. 18% of Black students read on grade level, as opposed to 72% of white students who are reading on grade level. So as I said, there is a huge inequity. So because you give 2 students the same book, that does not mean they come from the same reading background. That doesn't mean they both have the tools that they need to read this book successfully. There's 12% of Black students who do math on grade level, as opposed to the 65% of white students who do math on grade level. And so how are we holding ourselves accountable as educators, as the mentors, as the big brothers and cousins in the community when it comes to educating the people in our household, the people in our schools, on how they can make it up to grade level? How are we providing the services to the people who don't have money for tutors, who don't have the latest laptops? Like, what are we doing as a community and as a school district to supply the students with their needs so that they can increase these levels? Especially right now where it's so critical, because we're not in person, we're losing the engagement and the ability to teach people because of our new reality. And so, you know, some things are out of our hands, but what can we do? We want to be solution oriented. So what can we do to bridge this divide? So one big thing that I've seen growing up in Oakland and being in the school system is the importance of representation. And so when you have mentors and teachers who look like you, it has been proven that students of color actually respond better in class, and they're more engaged when they have teachers that look like them, when they can connect with people. You know, we have a high mortality rate where there's people who don't feel like they can live past the age of 21. And death is increasing in our community, is gun violence. And so when you see a teacher that looks like you, that's empowering you and telling you that you have a future, and they're also teaching you, it does something different to a youth's psyche, especially when we see the media and they're so negative about Black and brown people in our community. But there have been signs of positive impacts when there's teachers who reflect you, and representation truly matters. So an increasing statistic is about the deaths of young Black and brown men in our community. So more than a dozen young people in the OUSD community lost their lives. And in most cases, it was due to street level violence. And so what are we doing, again, to protect the students, to make sure that the people who are at home are safe, because we're not in classrooms, because we're not, you know, playing the sports on campus? Who is safe, really? Like, who do you know doesn't have a safe place to go? You know, I admired Joe Clark, which was from Lean On Me. You know, he was a bit rough, but he also cared about his students, and he really wanted to know the living circumstances. So with our school administrators and teachers and the community members, how are we holding ourselves accountable and making sure we're creating a safe space for the youth in our community? So recently, the CDC research has shown that the impacts of COVID-19 has led to 1 in 4 students reporting suicidal thoughts, meaning that they don't see themselves having a future and they're actually thinking about taking their own lives. But I want to remind you, suicide is preventable. So I want every young and older people to just know the warning signs. When people start to eat less or when they're eating more, if they're secluding themselves, if they become violent or lashing out or very impatient, there can be very mental and emotional trauma that's happening. And so this can also lead to self-harm, self-medication. And now things are out of our control. So how are we protecting the lives? Nico talked about being there for his friends and how he had to change how he interacted with people. So how are we changing this to make sure that youth feel like there's someone to support them? So what our children need, what the babies in the community need, sufficient technology is one. We need to make sure that every household within the Oakland Unified School District community has adequate technology, whether that's Wi-Fi, and they need Chromebooks that allow them to do Zoom. Some of us need to do Zoom backgrounds because we don't want our living rooms or our kitchens to be in there, because this is our privacy and people have access to our privacy now. What we need is guidance counselors, therapists, people to talk to us, because like I said, there's a lot of mental and emotional things that are happening and it's out of our control, but we're no longer we don't need to fund school police now if we're not going to be in person. So how are we using those funds to make sure that therapists and we have RJ facilitators who can reach us on a mental and emotional level? Because I know some teachers like to do restorative practices, but I can't connect to my math teacher on what's happening at home. I need my restorative justice teacher. I need to have a therapist. So how are we allocating the funds to make sure that students are getting the needs that need to be met? So I want to do a call to action to our youth leaders. So 1 is to be understanding, respectful, determined, and vigilant about COVID safety. This is still out there. We're still in a pandemic. The cure has not arrived on your doorstep yet. Some people say they don't want to take the vaccine. So just make sure you're doing your due diligence and not spreading COVID. Make sure you have your mask before you leave. Spend 6 feet apart. I know it's hard. We have the holiday season rolling up. You want to be with your family, but now it's very important not to spread this disease to anyone. Even if you don't think you're sick, someone else might be. So we want to spread awareness on social media platforms about the importance of taking the proper safety measures. So everything I just talked about, we want to put that on social media because we know that's how you get your news. Seek help from your teachers, counselors, parents, friends, if you're feeling anxious, frustrated, or sad. So, it's a mix of emotions. If you can't go to your teacher, if you can't go to your parent, please go to a friend, find somebody that you can trust. And I want you also to tell other people that they can trust you. So if you know that you have the capacity to handle other people's problems, please be a resource and be supportive of other people who need help. Because like I said, suicide rates are going up now with everything that's happening. We don't have an outlet for our feelings. So please be a resource and seek help, but also be someone who can give help if you have that capacity. Check in, so support and provide resources to friends and families that are struggling with their mental health. Like I said, it's difficult times right now. So if you know someone who's struggling or has a history of mental illness, depression, I think all Black households need therapy. That's very important. And, as right now our relationships are being tried, not only Black households, but I come from a Black household and I say I need therapy. So if you know someone who's struggling with their mental health, please support them. And if you are one struggling, please, I encourage you to find those resources. And show up to your online classes, try to stay engaged. Go back, please. There we go. Try to stay engaged and consistently advocate for yourself to teachers and other faculties about your needs. So like I said, if you need support, please reach out. Don't be embarrassed and take control of your education. So if you know that it's hard for you to do your work, tell your teacher, don't fall behind, tell your counselors, that way, at least if somebody knows, they can help you and meet you halfway. Another thing that OUSD can do to support the youth in their communities, research has shown OUSD owns about 40 acres of land throughout the district. There's empty abandoned parking lots and buildings that are no longer being used. We can renovate those buildings, we can renovate those lots and make it a safe and adequate place for housing and make sure that we don't have homeless youth living under bridges. We don't have youth that are in dangerous areas across the city. So I implore the OUSD community and the school board just to look into how they can use these empty spaces that are owned by the city and by the school board so that we can create these safe spaces for our youth. Which leads me to the call to action for our adult partners. So our call to action to adult leaders and allies: 1, give students a seat at the table and let their voices and vote count. So glad Measure QQ was passed, so now students who are in the school board can now vote in their elections. So I implore students and teachers and parents and school members to listen to the youth and really allow their decisions to allow for change, be the catalyst for change. Like I said, we are the present. And so we see what's happening and we're going to be vocal about it. So allow what we say to change to actually take part in change. We want to push the city to end the technology divide. So we want internet and hotspots for all, offer classes in stress management and mindfulness in every OUSD school during COVID and beyond, because without a sound mind, body, and soul, you cannot be active and actually engage in your education. I tried it, it didn't work. You have to meet the students when they're full. And if someone is stressed out and have anxiety, they can't be focused on their education. We want to use the money from ending the police in OUSD schools to hire and support more diverse teachers and counselors. Like I said, representation matters. So how are we funding and retaining our Black teachers, our counselors, and our therapists and our RJ facilitators throughout the district? We want to increase socially distant safe homes or school visits to students who are struggling. So if you know about the 30% of students who are not getting on Zoom, please find a way to reach out to them. And if we can do a safe social distance visit to homes to make sure that they're okay, that their living conditions are adequate, please, I implore you to do so. And if we'll talk offline just to see what's capable with our district. And we want to use OUSD properties and vacant lots to create dorms and safe havens for students with insecure housing. So that was a lot. Again, this is recorded, so please feel free to look back over the recording when we share it with friends and family so we can see what we can do to make these call to actions a reality. With all of that said, I know that was a lot. It's probably time for us to decompress with everything we talked about. I will now turn it over to Sophie Tran to lead us through some decompressing exercises. Sophie, are you ready?
Thank you, Jonathan, for that wonderful presentation. I'm Sophie Tran. I'm a freshman at Oakland High, and over COVID, I've been meditating and doing yoga to help me calm down and decompress. So I want to share that with you guys. I know that all those presentations were a lot, so if you could follow me through the decompression, that would be wonderful. So now we're going to do shoulder rolls, 3 seconds on each side. We're going to do clockwise first. So let's go. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to turn the opposite way. 1, 2, 3. Next, we have shoulder rolls. So we're going to do 5 seconds of shoulder rolls. We're going to roll our shoulders and let out all the tenseness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to try to reach the sky. Reach as high as you can for 5 seconds. Reach. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to do body twists on both sides for 4 seconds. So twist to one of your sides for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now reach for the other. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're done with the decompression. So I hope that has helped you guys. Now I'm going to pass it on to Leanna Parrish to introduce our listeners.
Thank you, Sophie, for that nice decompression. I feel so much more relaxed. So hello, everyone again. We are going to hear from 3 adult leaders, Mr. Michael Scott, principal of Castlemont High School, Ms. Lisa Carlisle, Director for Children and Young Adult System of Care for Alameda County, and Mr. Mateen Abdel Kawi, Superintendent for all OUSD high school principals. Mr. Scott, we will start with you. Thank you for coming to listen to our concerns, and I want you to take 1 minute to introduce yourself and what you've done for the community related to COVID safety, academic, and mental health needs, and then take 5 minutes to respond to our presentations. I'll give you a 30-second warning, and specifically answer these 2 questions. Firstly, what is your response to what you have heard? And secondly, what do you think is in your power to change? So, go ahead.
Okay, there we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Scott. I am principal of Castlemont High School. I am a product of Oakland Public Schools, worked in OUSD for 30 some years. I'm glad to be here. You're gonna have to repeat those questions for me, Ms. Parrish, because that was a lot.
Okay, I know it was a lot. So the first question is, what is your response to what you've heard? And then the second one is, what do you think is in your power to change?
All right, first of all, I want to commend all of the youth leaders who contributed to this presentation. I see Zoom presentations all day, every day, and this is one of the better ones I've seen since the pandemic has started. It was really engaging and thoughtful. So many voices were shared that it was really inspiring. So I'm very, very impressed with what you put together today. You should be really proud of yourselves. And who did you say did that animation? Who did that? The animated video that Miss Armistead?
Diana.
Well, I don't know if you're in the room, Diana, but that was sensational. I really loved that. So thank you for inviting me and for the opportunity. You have done a really marvelous job. So that was question number 1. And what is in my power to change, I think was the question.
Yep,
right?
it is. That's the question.
Okay. So one of the things I do want to make sure that is known is that Oakland Public Schools and Castlemont in particular makes technology available to every single student. And one of the biggest struggles that we have had is getting the technology into the hands of young people. So what you talked about, Mr. Piper, I think at the end there, about going to students' homes and knocking on doors to find out, you know, what's going on with young folks and deliver technology to those folks that we still know may need it, is an important step. That's something within our control. I have a meeting with what is called my intervention team tomorrow to plan that very strategy, because we do have a fair number of students for whom we don't know their technology status. They are engaging in school, but for all we know, it could be on a telephone, on a smartphone or an iPad or something like that. So we do want to make sure that all of the laptops and hotspots that we have at our disposal get into the hands of the young people who need them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to make sure that we are attentive to students' social emotional needs. You mentioned one of the recommendations was having mindfulness, available for every young person. The one thing that is new for the pandemic that we're doing at Castlemont that we didn't do during the traditional school year is advisory. So advisory is a community of students who meet every morning for an hour to check in. Advisory is not necessarily academic. So it's interactive games, it's check-ins, it's discussions about what's going on in the world and what's going on in the news and what's going on with young people. So we do provide that opportunity for folks to connect with each other because we recognize isolation is an issue, and for them to elevate issues that are important to them and that are affecting them during the pandemic. One of the other things that we've done is that every teacher at the school at the end of each term provides a survey to their young people, to the students they teach, to find out what worked for them during distance learning and what didn't, and what recommendations that they can make for the teacher to improve the experience for the young people who are suffering through distance learning. Because I know it's not working for everyone. That 30% number sounds about right. For some students, distance learning just doesn't work. They need in-person instruction, and we recognize that. So one of the other things that we're doing, this is the third thing I'll talk about, and maybe my 5 minutes are probably close to up, is to create learning hubs for those students who are most in need. So I'm housing insecure. I need a person-to-person connection in order to learn. So we're going to be creating, and this is not unique to Castlemont, but learning hubs where the most vulnerable students can actually come and get in-person instruction in small groups periodically during the week, so that there is that human connection and that opportunity for kids to get that personal instructional touch. So I think those are three things that are within our power and that we're planning to do. And we're always looking for more feedback about ways that we can do better for our young people.
Thank you so much, Mr. Scott. I like a lot of the things that you had to say. The Learning Hub is an amazing idea. So thank you for all of your talking points. We're now going to move on to Miss Lisa Carlisle, and I will say the same thing to you. Take a minute to introduce yourself and what you've done for the community needs related to COVID safety, academic, and mental health. And then take 5 minutes. I'll give you a 30-second warning to answer these two questions. What is your response to what you've heard? And what do you think is in your power to change?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am so happy to be here, so thank you for having me. My name is Lisa Carlisle, and I am the Director of the Child and Young Adult System of Care for Alameda County Behavioral Health Care, and we are the mental health arm of Healthcare Services Agency. So we're responsible for providing mental health and substance use disorder services to the citizens of Alameda County. And one of the things that we have done during the COVID pandemic is we have kept our doors open. We are disaster workers, we are healthcare workers, and I've been working really hard with my staff and our provider community to make sure that we can still continue to serve the community. We know that in-person services are quite difficult for a number of reasons, and we are still able to provide those in some capacity because, as you all have very eloquently stated for the past hour, mental health matters across the spectrum. And there are some things that we need to see you all in person for that telehealth or telemedicine won't really cut it. And so we've been really working hard to keep that open. One of the things, because I think the question was, what have I done specifically? I kind of talked about what my department has done, but one of the things that I have done, because of COVID, I sit on a lot of different task force and work groups. And one of the work groups that I'm on is comprised of our public health department and our environmental health department and Alameda County Office of Education. And this group is making decisions on how youth are going to engage in all activities. So that's school, sports, your after school care programs, child care programs, all of those things. And one of the things that I've been advocating for successfully, I might add, is that we allow during the pandemic provisions for small group in-person learning for those young people that are just not going to be able to access their education in online forums. So we've been able to move that forward, and that's very near and dear to my heart. I work in mental health, but I'm a former special education teacher, and so I have a lot of classroom experience, and I know what it's like to teach and watch your students struggle. And so I can't imagine continuing with the pandemic without advocating for some provision of, well, can we get 5 of the students that are just flailing? Can we get them to come in twice a week for 3 hours so they can get some attention? So those are some things that I have personally been advocating for to move some things forward in the pandemic. And Ms. Parrish, you're going to have to please repeat those other two
It was only two questions.
questions.
The first one was what your response was, and then what do you think is in your power to change? I think you kind of covered it a little bit, but if you have any more talking points, go ahead. You have a little bit of time left.
You know, I want to commend you all on the presentations that you've done this evening. It's not often that I get to, and I'm, you know, touch the young people anymore because I'm very far removed. So it's always great to be able to keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening, and just hearing from your experiences personally with how things have been challenging, and then also hearing those successes and ways that you have been coping with everything that's happening in the pandemic is great. Things that I can continue to do. I think continuing to show up in, you know, my work, and not show up by just attending Zoom meetings, but showing up and being attentive and making sure that I'm listening to our school district partners, that I'm asking our staff, okay, well, the youth and family that you're seeing, what are they presenting with? And continuing to foster those relationships so that we can continue to provide mental health services, and quite frankly, do a better job at it, and meet and reach a much larger group of young people. So that's my commitment during the pandemic and beyond. That's what I'm here for, and that's what I plan on continuing to do.
Thank you so much. I can really tell you really have a heart for it. And I liked everything that you had to say. I could really tell you were really in this and care about the youth. And so our final speaker we're going to hear from is Mr. Mateen Abdel Kawi. And I have the same thing for you. Please take 1 minute to introduce yourself and what you've done for the community related to COVID safety, academic and mental health needs, and then take 5 minutes to respond to our presentations. I'll give you a 30-second warning. And the first question is, what is your response to what you've heard? And what do you think is in your power to change? I'm also going to copy and paste it in the chat for reference.
Thank you, everyone, and greetings. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, to connect with young people, us teachers, those of us who work in schools. One of the reasons why we do this work is to be in close proximity to young people. And so just like you guys are struggling with the pandemic, many of us who have dedicated our lives to being in the classrooms and the hallways and cafeterias, with young people, that's been something that we miss and look forward to reestablishing as soon as possible. Like Sister Parrish said, my name is Mateen Abdel Kawi. I'm the high school network superintendent. And I've been in this position for about 2 months. And prior to that, and for the last 7 years, I was the principal of Oakland High. And so I have a unique perspective in both being a school site administrator and now in the central office administrative position. And before I get into answering the questions about responding to what I heard, I really want to respond to what I saw. The artwork was phenomenal. The artwork was phenomenal. And for those of you who have taken time out to create spoken word, animation, 3D drawings, meditation, all those things are extremely beneficial and helpful in developing young people and people in general, but also just mental health and balance in a really challenging time. And so the artwork that we saw was phenomenal, but those of us who are shy about our work and the things that we create, continue to invest time and energy into it. It develops a side of you that math, science, and other curriculums that we're exposed to doesn't. So I want to applaud those who have taken the arts to heart and use it to create balance and structure in your lives. What I heard was equally phenomenal. Your ability to articulate the challenges that young people are going through during these extremely difficult times. No PhD, doctor, or anyone could have said it any better. And I always encourage whatever position that I'm in and where I'm at, is that we need to pause and listen to the young people. We need to pause and listen to youth, because they have a much better understanding and can better articulate what they need to be successful and to be supported. And I think nothing else is that now it's your job to hold us accountable, because you clearly articulated what it is that you're experiencing and also what you need to get through these very challenging times. And no one could have said it better. And I took it to heart. And in my position and the people that I'm connected with, I'm sure will feel it equally in the work that we do. What do we have the power to change? Well, I believe we have the power to change everything. I don't think there's anything that we don't have the power and ability to change. We successfully changed who's in the White House, and that's going to happen in a couple of months, right? And that was primarily done by people of color throughout this country, particularly Black women were the ones who spearheaded and made it happen. We got a sister from Oakland who's sitting in the White House mid next month. So I believe without a doubt, there's nothing we can't do. But to be more granular and focus on Oakland Unified School District, and Michael Scott, who is a phenomenal principal and school leader, he articulated it well. Like, one of the things that we can do is make sure that everyone has the technology in hand. And we've done a phenomenal job of doing it, but you're right. There's a number of students, a number of families, a number of households that we have to double down on and make sure that they have the resources that they need to get online. And sometimes a phone call or a text message or email is not what's needed. We need to knock on doors and make sure that folks are home, give them the stuff that they need so they can get online and be successful. This is something that's very important to our superintendent and our senior leadership team. And we've been directed to make sure that that number of students that we believe are having challenges with being connected, that by mid-January, that's resolved, and we have complete, absolute confidence that 100% of our students have the tools that they need to stay online. And so I'm part of that team, and in the work that I do, I'm going to work with them to make sure that we accomplish that. It's not that we don't have the devices, we have the Chromebooks, we have the hotspots. It's just a matter of making sure we get them into the hands of our young people and the families that need them. I think I'll close with this. So in my new position, I get to talk to principals every day. It's what I get to do. I get to sit down with them and just unpack with them what are the challenges and what are the resources that they need. And yes, a lot of our young people out here are struggling academically, but without question, the thing that comes up most is the social emotional needs of our young people. Nothing comes up more often and more consistently than developing systems on each campus to provide the social emotional support for our young people. So like Mr. Scott talked about, creating hubs for students who are struggling to get online and get academic support. We want to do similar hubs for social emotional support as well, so that young people can have an adult to talk to or other young people they can talk to, obviously in a safe environment that will help them get the resources, the support that they need to continue to thrive while this pandemic is going on. But like all things that challenge our communities, this thing will be over soon, and we will continue to thrive, grow, and be an amazing Oakland community.
Thank you so much. I loved your response. You had a lot of good words to say. And like you said, about the future and about like things that we can do to change, we can change so much. It's kind of unlimited. It's just, where do we start? And like the youth saying our voices is where we start, because, you know, we are the future. And so thank you to all the youth speakers, and thank you to the organizations. Thank you to our adult listeners who have joined us, listened to us, and responded to our recommendations. The conference is not over, but I'm going to turn it back over to Jonathan. We're almost near the end, okay?
Thank you, Leanna, for leading that amazing piece. And I want to give a special happy belated birthday shout out to Mr. Mateen. You just celebrated another year on this earth. So happy belated birthday to you. Looking like one of your students. I can't tell how old you might have gotten, but I also want to thank our superintendent, Johnson Trammell, for still being on with us and listening to what we have to say, hopefully making recommendations and taking it back to the teams who can really implement the changes that we need to see in our community. We do have an amazing poet who will be speaking towards the end of our conference, so please stick around so we can support her when she delivers her dynamic piece. And we also have a shorter questionnaire we want all of you to fill out, so that is going to be posted in the chat. It'll take 3 to 4 minutes. We're going to play music again. For this short questionnaire, remember, we will be pulling 3 email addresses from people who fill out that questionnaire, and there will be $30 gift cards sent to you once we pull those 3 emails. So there's your incentive to get that done. You know, it's holiday season. If you want to use it for somebody, use it for yourself, however you want to use it. But if you fill out our questionnaire that's going to be sent into the chat momentarily, there'll be prizes for 3 people who we choose randomly. And so, yeah, I believe it has just been sent into the chat. If you did not receive it, ask and we'll send it to you again. And then stick around because we have a dynamic poet who will be ending us out. So I believe that it has just been
in this Illuminati all through your body. The blows like a 12-gauge shot it. Feel me? And God said he sent his one begotten son to lead the wild into the ways of the man.
We can't hear the music.
Can you hear this?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Never change for anybody else in your brown skin, girl. Skin just like pearl. The best thing in the world. I never change for anybody else singing. Does she really good boy like me? Don't believe in nothing but the Almighty. Just a little jeans and a pure whitey. She never dreamed to ever be nobody wifey. She thought I mean a pretty, but your heart is amazing. Play you like a villain cause she caught in a way. Tonight I am walking away. 9 to 5 mine and I grind. Tonight I might fall in love. Depending on how you hold me. I'm glad that I'm calming down. Can't let no one come control me. Keep dancing and call it love. She fights it by falling slowly. If ever you are in doubt, remember what mama told me. Brown skin girl, your skin just like pearls. Your back against the world. I never tried you for anybody else. A brown skin girl, your skin just like pearls. The best thing in all the world. I never trade you for anybody else. Pose like a trophy when Naomi's walking. She need an Oscar for that pretty dark skin. Pretty like Lupita when the camera's closing. Drip broke the levy when my killer's rolling. I think tonight she might break her braid. Melanin too dark to throw her shade. She minds her business and winds her waist. Boy, like 24K. Okay. Tonight I might fall in love. Depending on how you hold me. I'm glad that I'm calming down. Can't let no one come control me. Keep dancing and call it love. She fighting but falling slowly. If ever you are in doubt, remember what mama told me. Brown skin girl, your skin just like pearls. Your back against the wall. I never tried you for anybody else. A brown skin girl, your skin just like pearls. The best thing in all the world. I never tried you for anybody else. Oh, have you looked in the mirror lately? Wish you could trade eyes with me. Cause there's complexities in complexion, but your skin is glow like diamonds. Dig me like the earth, you be giving back to everything alive, baby, know your worth. I love everything about you, from your nappy curls to every single curve, your body natural. Same skin that was broken, me, same skin taking over. Most things out of focus, you, but when you're in the room, they know it's you. Cause you're beautiful. Yeah, you're beautiful. Them gon' fall in love with you in all of your glory. Your skin is not only dark, it shines and it tells your story. Keep dancing, they can't control you. They watch and they all adore you. If ever you are
Well, I hate to mute Beyonce, but time must go on. I hope you had enough time to fill out the post survey. If not, feel free to keep going after the conference so we can potentially pull your email and get you a potentially get you that $30 gift card. And again, thank you all to the youth speakers and the organizations that have been a part of this amazing conference. Thank you to our adult allies who shared and voiced their wisdom and what they can do to support all of us. Remember to attend our third and final conference, which will be on Tuesday, December 15th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. Please share with them the flyer. It's on our social media. Share with any friends, family, colleagues, the Zoom link to this that will be shared afterwards so that they can see what the other conferences look like, and they can see what to expect for our third and final one, which is on addressing negative impacts of community violence during COVID-19. So the importance of restorative justice and violence prevention, which is what we're all about, right? We need to build a stronger and loving community. And so it is my pleasure to introduce this dynamic poet, May Pugh, who will end us out with her poem.
Thank you, Jonathan. Really a great presentation to me. So my name is May, and I'm a freshman of Oakland High School, and I will be presenting my poem that I've written, and the title is Trying Times, and I hope it gives you something to think about. It came, creeping up unrecognized. Looks like a cough, probably a cold. Then, cleverly sly, slowly and steadily, took over as it exponentially grows. COVID-19, you're invisible to the naked eye and have taken advantage to pounce unexpectedly. You've taken away too many lives. That venturing out and hearing a cough can make one freeze. Pandemic, that's what we're in. So as to avoid the dreaded virus face to face. School buildings are now pretty abandoned as distance learning takes its place. Technology is the main key now. When all students and teachers from home attend, but some would feel quite left out, unfortunate to meet such demands. For those with many a relative living, and but one lone electronic for work and school, must share it around their families and risk missing out on theirs too. Young kids and teens and workers alike feel a new burden on their backs. Cooped at the screen, some dreams out of sight. They mourn for what they lose or lack. Some lose control, some lose hope. Others need time to adjust, living in confusion and trying to cope, while the question burns, when will it end and turn to dust? We may never know the coming future, nor can we ever change the past. But let's make the best of things as we endure, for nothing's ever permanent. Nothing can forever last. COVID-19, you have caused much change and stress for all those who catch us and those worrying their necks. But when we're diligent, together we'll end your mess, and we shall be able to refuse to be vexed. Thank you very much, and that's my poem.
Ooh, I know we can't all unmute you, but please give some snaps to the screen. Let May feel all your love and appreciation for that dynamic poem. Thank you so much. So we are at the end of our conference. Remember to do that post survey, and your email can potentially be drawn for a $30 gift card. We're choosing 3 people. You will be notified tomorrow, and hope you can attend our next conference again, which will be on December 15th. Share the word. We're going to make this Zoom available on our social media so you can share it with your friends and family. And again, have a wonderful evening. Stay safe. If any of our speakers want to stay on and say anything before we play our music, I just hope everyone has a great evening.
Thank you to everyone who attended. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for
Yes,
being
thank
here.
you for sharing our night with you.
Thank you for having us. You guys did a great job and have a wonderful evening. Take care.
Thank you again for inviting me. I appreciated being here. You guys did a wonderful job. Take care. Have a great evening.
Thank y'all for coming out. You know, it's an honor. We can't have a space without y'all showing up. So shout out to y'all for coming through and doing the work that you do and all that, you know.
And you know what? I forgot to shout you out because I was blown away by your performance as well. So I'm glad you showed up there. Really, really great job. Better than a lot of stuff I hear on the radio, I tell you that. So more power to you.
You'll see more of me. You'll see more of me. I promise that.
All right, good. All right, y'all. You have a good one now.
You as well. Thank you.
Take care.
Staring at the ceiling, try to connect the dots, but it's all making those attachments. I'm talking dreaming so hard, some nights it felt like draft day, you know. My stepbrother used to flip them bags outside the crib like it was trash day. No Kim K, but he back, yeah. But when you get it fast money, slow down, don't crash. With all the drive in the world, swear you still need gas. Look, think about it. Close your eyes, dream about it, tell your team about it, go make $1 million schemes about it. Success is on the way, I feel it in the distance. Used to look up at the stars and be like, ain't too much that's different. I be shining, they be shining.
Look at that timing though, right? 6 o'clock, we finished on the dot. So thank you everyone for visiting. And of course, we are concluded.
I hope it's the realest thing that you ever know. Hope you get the pretty girls, pretty and everything. $1 million cribs, having $1 million dreams. And when you get it all, just remember one thing. Remember one thing. One man could change the world. One man could change the world. My grandma told me if you write your name in stone, you'll never get the white out. I grinded out that black hole and performed up at the White House, standing next to Jim Carrey. We traded stories to laugh. I said, you're not the only one I know got rich wearing masks. Where I'm from, I swear they broke. They need way more than the cash. We need more than what you have, and then we need more than that. But how I'm supposed to say I'm tired if that girl from West Virginia came up in conditions that I couldn't survive? With the war, came back alive. On top of that, became a female black captain. When being black, you had the extra try. Way before James Brown made us proud. She bought a crib on the same street as Marvin Gaye, right there on how to drive. And she taught me how to drive. And she raised the kids, then the kids' kids. And she
So I just want to say I'm so happy and proud of all of you. If we want to unmute anyone to sing praises to these students, please.
Great job, team. Great job. Really strong. I felt like all the presentations, everybody seemed a lot more comfortable who was on last time. The art was amazing. The animation, thank you, Diana and Jay. I really enjoyed this conference, and I know there were some technical difficulties at the beginning, and y'all really handled it all so well and kept the energy live, and people were in the chat, and they stayed. We had about 75 people throughout the event, and they just keep getting better. Like it's Leanna, right?
Yes, Leanna.
Leanna, right? Yeah, I felt like you were way more comfortable this time, and it showed. And you were very lively. Jonathan, I always love your outfits. May, that was a great poem at
the end. I was really, really excited about it. The Wrath was awesome by, is it Griffin?
Yep,
Yeah, it
yep, yep.
was.
Yeah, we got to do some work. We got to get in the studio, man.
Ooh,
But
it's good. Let me know what's up. Let me know what's up.
yeah, so no, but I really, really appreciated it. I thought that, I felt like this maybe even just the topic of this one felt like y'all were a lot more in tune with it. And I'm excited to see the next one as well. So I appreciate everything y'all are doing. Sorry I haven't really been as involved in this one as I was previously. I've been kind of doing a lot of different things, but I really appreciate all the work, and y'all didn't need me at all. So but I'll be around, and please let me know if y'all need any help. Thank you, Kathy, and thank you to the full production team as well.
So any of the students, you want to say anything to each other? And I know Miko Johnson, you're somebody that might want to help with the December 15th conference, as well as Valeria. But any student want to say anything?